Hello, I'm Renee Langbart, and I am the Clay Center Area Chamber of Commerce Director. And I am joined today, actually I'm joining you because we're on location with my friend Randall of 5th Avenue
Antique Auto Parts.
Antique Auto Parts.
That fills up your
It does,
mind,
doesn't it? So thanks for coming on and,
You're very welcome.
Inviting us to be here and be part of your shop today.
You're very welcome.
I'm excited to hear all that you have to say. You have such a fascinating business. I've been privileged to have the tour of this really unique building and business, and so I'm anxious to hear about everything. So why don't we start off and kind of tell the viewers a little bit about your past, your youth, and how this all came to be.
Okay. When I was in high school, I bought and restored the 1948 to 53 Chevy pickups. And I'd get one fixed up and get it running pretty well. Somebody'd always come along and buy it. Nobody wanted to fix it up, but they'd buy it after it was done. So I would sell it and go buy another one.
Sure.
So in the course of all that, I always had dead batteries and dim headlights.
Okay.
So I used to park on a hill so you know it would start. Coast down the hill and make it go. So I decided I was going to fix that. You know, when you're that age, you can fix anything.
Yep.
So I camped on all the doorsteps of all the mechanics in town. And I said, I want to know how to fix this. And they gave me ideas and none of them really worked. So the only one that helped me out some was Jimmy Hatfield, which was behind where the library is now.
Okay.
And so he explained the difference between generators and alternators and how they worked. So I went home and I figured out in my little mind that you could take modern technology and apply it backwards and make a 6-volt alternator. So then I went back to Jimmy and I said, I want to make a 6-volt alternator. He said, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard. So I said, well, I think it'll work. So I just kept working on it. And I got Rod Keene involved.
Okay.
He told me that was the dumbest idea he'd ever heard.
Okay.
I said, come on, let's do this. So we worked on it about 3 years and finally got one to work. So it's still on my brown 51 Chevy pickup that I bought in grade school. And then since then, well, we just have sold them around the world. So it has worked. And I have them in 22 foreign countries besides the US and Canada.
So you manufacture, produce
the 6-volt. That was the first product. Now I have 44 different things for the antique cars. So.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I do a lot with the Great Race where the antique cars drive cross country. Yeah, I prepare about 12 of those a year and sponsor one. So that's how you keep up current and you find out how much you know and how much you think you know when you're working.
I'm curious, what is clever, creative, like what's the catch with the 6-volt alternator?
A modern alternator charges engine idle where a generator doesn't. So I took the modern technology from the alternator and made it go back to the same voltage as a 6-volt car. Most modern cars are 12-volt. So like your car that you drive now is 12-volt. So I took that modern technology and went backwards, and that's what the engineer people said you're not supposed to do.
So you've made it so that older cars
are as reliable as a new car.
I understand, okay.
It made perfect sense to me, but the engineer people said I was nuts. So.
Well, you were taking a demographic that was completely untapped because it was just falling by the wayside and made it viable again. Kudos to you.
So it's been fun, you know, after all these years. So I worked out of my garage for about 5 years, made them and sold them. Then in '93, I bought this building and been here ever since. So this is actually the 31st year.
So you've been in business for 31 years, selling these alternators and other products. That's amazing.
Who would have thought?
I know. The thing that I love about it is that you can tell that you absolutely love it.
It is. Yeah, I haven't set an alarm clock for about 25 years.
That's fantastic.
Which is kind of embarrassing to say, but you know, it's fun to go to work most days.
Sure, yeah, I understand. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to hear about the things that you're working on now.
Okay.
All right. See you in a minute.
The living room. It's a great place to watch TV. Just like your backyard, break time at the office, or waiting for your ride. Now you can watch TV everywhere. Stream your favorite shows or live TV from many channels in your cable package on any computer, tablet, or smartphone. It's all included with your Eagle Communications TV service for no extra cost. Sign up to watch TV everywhere today. Call or visit eaglecom.net to learn more.
Hello, I'm Renee Langvar, and I am joined by my friend Randy Randall, and we are here on location at his business, and we're chatting with you about kind of how you got started in the antique car business. And you mentioned in the segment before about the Great Race, and why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Okay.
You got to come and talk at our chamber coffee a few months ago about it, and it absolutely fascinates me. So
it is. After I got the alternator invented, I thought that was the easy part. If I'd put an advertisement, they'll just flock to the store and buy them, but it didn't work that way. So I had to find some way to market. So the Great Race is an antique car race where they drive the old cars cross country, and they have to all be pretty much original. So that was a perfect market for the alternator.
Sure.
So I knocked on all the doors of the Great Race entrance, and I said, put this alternator on your car. And they said, well, who else has done it? Well, you're the first. Well, come back when somebody else has done it. Then we'll buy one. So I kept knocking on doors, and I got to Bud Milby in Seattle, Washington, and he agreed to put one on, and it worked for him. So then after he made the race and got to the end, he got second. That's the highest he had ever finished prior. So then Howard Sharp from Fairport, New York, was parked beside him all through the race, and he said, if that would have really worked, somebody else would have invented that a long time ago. And he kept watching that, kept watching that. Finally, at the end of the race, he said, I want one of those. So I sent him one, he put it on his car, and the next year he got first. So he got $30,000 in a new Buick Roadmaster. So he was sold. So then he's been my best salesman since. So I've sponsored him every year since 1989. And he's, like I say, he's the best salesman there is, and he's from back east, so he'll tell you you're an idiot if you don't put one on.
So a lot of your marketing has been done essentially word of mouth, which is always the best way. When you have customer, you know, rave reviews and things of that nature, it's really nothing. And the Great Race nothing is better than that.
Yeah, and the Great Race has helped me a lot because, you know, it's a lot of common cars that people used to drive and the ones people still collect. So if you have a 40 Ford and you see one entered in the Great Race, you're going to go see what they did to that car to make it reliable enough to go across country. So I can just about follow the Great Race, you know, from where they were the night before, from the people calling and say, I want what they have. So it's been good.
Yeah, the Great Race is absolutely, it's kind of fascinating. I would love to watch part of it or whatever. But it's like the movie, it's a mad world, right?
Yeah, it's a time distance thing, and it's not necessarily so much speed, but it's how accurate they can follow directions.
Sure.
And they can't use any cell phones, can't use any modern GPSs or anything. They have to do it all by paper and pencil. So there's a lot of math in there, and you have to have kind of an internal compass to know where you're at. So, and if anything breaks down during the day, then the driver and navigator have to work to fix it.
Because you have two people in the vehicle, right? The driver and the navigator.
And they can't have any outside help. So the idea is to make your car reliable so you can do the direction part. So, and that's, you know, the direction part is really difficult.
Sure.
They'll be within 2 seconds.
I would get lost in a paper bag.
Yeah, they're within 2 seconds in an 8-hour day.
That is unbelievable.
And the first year I got involved with them, I said, well, this is simple addition and subtraction. Just follow your directions and do your math. And they said, well, it's not quite that simple. So they sent me to navigation school for the rookies. And they explain how everything works, and then they give you a simulated day. And I was 20 minutes off in an 8-hour day.
Right, and these people are 2 seconds off.
So they said, just stay home. You're never going to get it.
You're not going to get anywhere.
But I learned the importance of how reliable a car is to what they're doing.
Sure.
So that did help me, but
it also is pivotal in your...
So I didn't pick on them for driving anymore. It's way too complicated for me.
That's awesome. So the other thing that I know that you're involved in is the Cushmans. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit, here in Clay Center for the last 3 years now, I believe, We've had the Cushman kind of.
Yeah, it's the Midwest meat for Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma.
Yeah. Okay. And all these little Cushmans come to Clay Center over Labor Day weekend, and it is absolutely awesome. I want a Cushman so bad. I love the colors. I love how cute they are, and fun to see these little herds of Cushmans going everywhere around the community. So
yeah, we usually send them on a scavenger hunt while they're in town, so that way they get to see all the sites at Clay Center.
So when the Cushman group came to Clay Center a few years ago, I had to Google what a Cushman was. So why don't you tell the viewers kind of like what the Cushman is or whatever?
Yeah, the Cushmans were made, they started making those in the 30s. They made them up until the 60s. And they started out making scooters, two-wheeled scooters. A lot of paper boys in the 40s and 50s had those. If you were lucky enough to do your paper route on a Cushman, that was pretty good deal.
You were pretty...
Beats a bicycle all day.
Living high and mighty.
Yeah, you were. So I have an antique Cushman Truckster that they made just 1 year in '66. And that's what I take packages to the post office in.
Yeah.
So
I see Randy around town taking his packages.
Yeah, so that's, you got to have a little fun when you go in the post office every day.
Weren't Cushmans, though, used somehow in the war?
They used some in the war. They dropped them out of airplanes.
Yes.
So they had transportation on the ground. They were all built in Lincoln, Nebraska. So that's where they started out. Yeah, so they're lots of fun, and there's lots of different kinds. So
yeah, they're a fun little thing.
You can bring your checkbook, and you probably buy one next year.
Yeah, I would love to have one. They're so awesome. So you are involved with the Great Race, and you're involved with the Cushmans. And what other projects are instrumental that kind of funnel through the shop?
You know, also I have a 1946 Fairmont railroad motor car.
Okay.
Like the guys the track inspectors used to use in the old days. And that has an alternator on it too. It didn't have any charging system at all when they were made new. But you know, after a while you look for a challenge on things you can put alternators on that didn't have alternators and aren't supposed to have one.
Sure.
So that was just another one. So now I've sold probably a couple hundred of those to different Fairmont people that get tired of pushing their motor car because the battery goes dead. So
interesting.
Something else different.
I take for granted that I get in my car and start it and away I go. So
yeah, it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was tougher in the old days.
So how often do you, we kind of joked about you going down to the post office in your little Cushman, but how often do you send packages?
About every day.
Every day?
Yeah, in fact I have a package there now that goes to England, so I still do lots of foreign stuff besides U.S. and Canada.
Very good. Well, we are going to take a little break, and you mentioned England, and that's going to lead us beautifully into our last segment, so we will see you in a minute.
Eagle Communications is your ultimate business partner. We provide business class phone with customizable features and fast, reliable internet. Your knowledgeable team at Technology Solutions has a broad base of IT services to meet your needs. Let the experts at Marketing Solutions get your message to the right people on the best platforms. The only piece missing is your business. Call Eagle Communications today at 877-61-EAGLE.
Welcome back, friends. I'm joined by Randy Randall, and we are chatting about his love for his business, his love for his clients, and his love for old cars and Cushmans. And if you are in Clay Center, I invite you to stop in to see Randy. I know he's very proud of his shop. His shop is extremely cool, like very eclectic. It's kind of has stories to tell on every single wall, but if you've noticed, I've been holding on to a little penny here, and Randy has an old-fashioned gumball machine, and it still takes a penny, and I absolutely love that. And I remember being a kid and begging Mom for a penny so that my sister and I could get a gumball. So feel free to stop in and check the business out and talk to Randy, and I guarantee you'll hear a lot of really great stories from the walls, really. So, and make sure to bring a penny.
Yeah, bring your penny.
Yeah, bring your penny. So, one of the things that I think is the most fascinating about your business is the clients that you serve. and I have heard rumors of some really unique clients that you've had. So why don't you share with us some of your A-listers, I guess.
A-listers, yeah. I've done about 6 movie projects. If you saw L.A. Confidential, did all the antique cars in there, have 6-volt alternators from Clay Center, Kansas. Devil in a Blue Dress was one that had Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, so, you know, the last Indiana Jones movie, did the cars in those. It's kind of interesting because, you know, I don't belong to the trade, as it were, so they have to find a creative way to pay me because I'm not in the union and I'm not in part of the so-called movie business. So I've been a miscellaneous outside consultant. I've been a transportation consultant, and I've been just a miscellaneous outside expense. So it's no wonder movies don't make money because they have all these creative ways of writing checks to people. Yeah, spending money. But, so that's pretty interesting. But you know, and as I got involved in the movies, I thought I want to be an extra. I want to just sit on the park bench, kind of like an Alfred Hitchcock thing, where you just don't have a speaking part. You just happen to be on the park bench or ride the bus or whatever you do. But I found out you can't do that unless you're in the Screen Actors Guild. And there has to be a part written in the script for you as man on the bus or, you know, man on the park bench. And then they have to go to the local Screen Actors Guild first and offer that to somebody. And then if nobody will do it in locally, then they come reach out further and further. So the closest one for here is Kansas City, and it costs $10,000 a year to be in the guild. It's $30,000 in LA to do the same, for the same thing. But I guess they figure you're close enough, and that's where the movies are, so you would do it. And you know, and I said, well, I'll do it for free. And they said, well, so would 24 other people, so that on your resume you can say I had an appearance in LA Confidential. And so because of the union, you have to get paid union scale as an extra. So you can't work for free anywhere, because otherwise everybody do that. So it's a whole complicated thing. And then the first cars I did for the movies, I said, I'll come out and put them on. I'll just come out and put the alternators on. I said, no, you can't do that either. You have to, it's all union, so you can't be in the shop unless you are part of the union and you work for a transportation company and all that. So anyway, I just had to send them little care packages, and you know, they're pretty easy to put on, but I just want an excuse to go see all that stuff. But anyway, so that doesn't work either. So everything's a little more complicated in the movies than you think, but it was a good education to find out how it all really works.
So the people that, I guess, hire people for movies, so when they contacted you, they needed the alternator.
Because nobody else does what I do.
Correct.
And
so that the cars would work when they needed them to work.
Yeah, because what happens, like when they're filming a movie, when they're filming a scene, they have, you know, 150 people in costume, plus they have all the lighting crews, and everybody has a job, and an assistant, and an assistant to the assistant. So there might be 300 people on set, and they're all getting paid while this car doesn't start.
Gotcha.
So, and when you jump start a car on a movie set, it takes 3 people. You have to have one on each end of the jumper cables and one inside the car. And then those guys have to be within 20 minutes of where they're filming. So they get paid to be on standby, then they get extra pay if they have to jump start the car. So they may do a film and scene a film, and then in 10 minutes later they may have to jump start again, so that's another charge. It goes like that all day long. So a director gets pretty frustrated with all the delays, and so...
Goes back to that same saying, time is money.
So yeah, when you get all these people standing around, then they get grouchy, and then of course the director gets grouchy, and then the budget guy gets grouchy, and so but we fixed it, but it wasn't near as easy as I would have done it. Being out here from Kansas, we just go fix it and we're done.
Right, exactly.
You have to go according to the pecking order.
So I've also heard that you have that the Queen of England is a client of yours.
Queen of England, yeah. The Great Race ended in Canada one year during their centennial, and the Queen of England got asked to do a reincarnation of the 40th Pan Am Games, and her mother was there for the first Pan Am Games, and tossed out the first ceremonial something. And so the Queen was with her in the back seat. So they asked her to do the same thing that her mother did 40 years prior. So the director for the Queen that does in charge of all transportation was at the great race at the end, and he saw cars with my gold sticker on the alternators. So he asked the great race guys if those alternators really worked. And is this guy for real? And they said, yes, call him. So he called one day, and he has this real thick British accent, and he said, I'm from the Royal Palace on behalf of the Queen, and he gives this whole long spiel. And I have customers in England that are pranksters, and they're always, you know, calling up some goofy story. And so when this guy goes through this whole spiel, I said, you know, he just went on and on and on. Finally, I said, just fax me something on the Queen's letterhead. And I hung up. I said, I don't have time for this. Well, about 5 minutes later, the fax machine goes off, and this sheet comes out, and it's from the Royal Palace, and it is really the guy. So then I have to call him up, you know, and kind of say, well, you know, nobody calls me from the middle of Kansas from the palace. So he explained what he wanted, and he said, will you help us? And so I said, yes. So they found the original Cadillac limousine that her mother rode in at the first Pan Am Games. A banker in Winnipeg, Canada had it and didn't know that that came from the palace. So the palace went to him and said, we'll restore that car if we can use it. So he says, well, heck yeah. So anyway, so he restored it, and then I did the electrical and the cooling and the fuel, much like you do a gray race car. So, and then I sent packages to the palace, and this guy is called the Royal Minister of Transportation. And all he does is make travel arrangements. So if they want to go by train or by bus or by horse carriage, whatever they do, that's his job, is to make those arrangements. And so when the Queen sent out, she said, I want to find this original Cadillac. He said, well, how am I going to find that? It's been 40 years ago. But you know, you don't tell the Queen Mom no. So they actually made commercials and aired them on BBC television and showed a picture of the car and the serial number, and it said, if you know where this car is, call the palace. And the banker called and said, I have that car. So that's how he got his car restored for free.
That is amazing.
So it's yeah, it was a pretty fun thing. And he, this Royal Minister of Transportation, he said they go back 100 years to get a job at the palace. They go through all your ancestors, make sure there was no horse thieves or anybody's ever been incarcerated for anything before you can go work for the palace. Then you have to interview with 2 or 3 people before you go in front of the Queen. And then your last stop is the Queen herself, and you have to tell her why you want to work for the palace and why you think you're deserving of this position. But so he got that job. He had it about 10 years when I talked to him. And he said, you know, I live in the palace, and he said, if I want a ham sandwich at 2 o'clock in the morning, I just call downstairs and they'll bring me one up. So he said, that's a pretty neat job. But he said, when this kind of stuff comes along, it's pretty stressful. So, but he said, other than that, well, he said, life is pretty good. So.
Well, that is so fascinating that you and your business here in Clay Center, Kansas, is reaching other corners of the world and the Queen herself. So thanks so much for coming and talking with me.
You're very welcome. Yeah, anybody wants to come down for a tour, well, come on down.
Yeah, you'd be in for a treat if you did.
So.
Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.